Hey. Sorry?
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
Fantasizing about holding you.
I mean, I'm hardly a mainstream filmmaker, right? I am not a mainstream filmmaker.
But I can't stop myself from fantasizing. I think about you for hours.
Chapter 1: The Infinite Variety. It's not difficult to discover an unknown animal. Spend a day in the tropical forest of South America, turning over logs, looking beneath bark, sifting through the moist litter of leaves, followed by an evening shining a mercury lamp on a white screen, and one way or another you will collect hundreds of different kinds of small creatures.
Love you when I'm feeling this way, and I've got nothing to offer.
I'm not allowed. I want to see a fog in the morning when I wake up.
Okay.
Very, very nice.
Okay, there are three short little films made by the BFI to use as promotion for viewing these much bigger phenomena. Because again, I don't think I have to stress the fact that I'm not a mainstream film director and employ all sorts of associations which might be much more familiar with other art forms like painting.
For sure, yeah.
I make no apology whatsoever. I never wanted to be a film director. I wanted to be a painter. I still want to be a painter. I think cinema is a very stupid medium, very childish, believes in sort of ridiculous dreams and impossible structures. And we've only had it for about 120 years. It hasn't been going very long. It's invented in, was it 1895? This is very recent. Yeah. We're now making a film with Dustin Hoffman, heaven forbid. I say that because now I got involved with Hollywood, which is don't get involved with Hollywood. It's absolutely stupid.
Primarily text-driven cinema.
Absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
I'm in great problems with all sorts of people now because I want to make independent films. I signed a contract which said I've got final cut, but now the producers in Hollywood are trying to take the final cut away from me and want to make something which is going to make money. It's all about money, money, money. So it's a very, very stupid thing, but I got into it by all sorts of ridiculous reasons.
So it's been almost 4 decades since Zed Two Noughts was released.
Yes, it was made, I think.
It's been a while. It's been a
I
while.
made it in 1984,
Exactly,
and I
yeah.
think it had its first performance in 1985.
Yeah, almost like 4 decades by
Yeah.
now. So looking back on the film, what are your overall feelings about it? Is there something that you would like to change? Or does it
Well,
stand?
let me say, if you just hold you there a minute.
Yeah, sure.
I think when people said, Mr. Greenaway,
Yeah.
what is your favorite film you've made yourself? And I would say, Zed Two Noughts. I think the film is badly acted. It's not developed in a necessarily sophisticated process, but it's a film which is the most ambitious film
It was
I've
very
ever made.
ambitious.
Very
But
ambitious.
you think that it didn't fulfill?
And you can see there are really 3 films in one. It's this whole film which has a storyline, and it's about this idea of what would you do if you met yourself. I think that's something we all feel. What would I do if I met myself? You know, would that be good, bad, indifferent, irrelevant,
Yeah.
positive? I mean, supposing, you know, we took it into a sexual realm. You know, I don't know what your sexual fantasies are, but supposing you met yourself and had a sexual relationship with yourself, how would that pan out? How would that work? So all sort of, I mean, politically, etc., etc., etc. So that, as said in that little short film, That's one thing. It's a film about twins. It's a film about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, I'm very interested, as I suggested, in natural history. So it's a film about a zoo. And a zoo is a catalogue. A zoo is a catalogue of live animals,
Mm-hmm.
which we use essentially, I think, to entertain us, take the children on a Sunday afternoon. But it all has, think of, you know the name David Attenborough?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Celebrated English natural
Yeah.
historian, who's now, I think, about 103 or something. He's very old. He's been around forever. I watched his programs when I was a small child, and I'm now 82, so it's a long, long time ago. So I'm fascinated about the world as a zoo.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my second thing. And my third thing is a film about cinema. It's about cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And cinema to me is all about the manufacture of light. It's and then I explain again, there are thousands of different ways to light, and I had a very smart, intelligent, witty, and ironic French cameraman, and he enjoyed these sorts of games. And you probably know most of the games in the world are invented by English people. I
That's
think
true.
Scotland invented golf, but that's about the only one. But everything else, tennis, cricket, soccer, football, they're all invented by the
But
English.
something to brag about.
They don't actually
Yeah.
play them very well anymore.
I mean, depends.
Well,
They're good at football.
they're
aren't
up
they?
there, pretty good at football.
Yeah.
But, most of the other games, they're always beaten at cricket by Australia, for example. And again, let me say to you, I don't think cinema is very interesting. I think that painting is far more interesting. It's much longer lived, and painting for me is much more philosophical medium.
Mm-hmm.
Cinema is very ephemeral. I mean, 99% of films are made to entertain. Okay, Michelangelo's The Last Supper is a form of entertainment, a particular, rather specialized form of entertainment. But let's get too high and mighty about this. Don't be snobbish about it. It's still a form of entertainment. But I think, entertainment can come on so many different levels. And I want to make the most entertaining films. Of course, I need the biggest audiences I can find, but I don't really want to make compromises. I don't want to make silly films. I want to regard my audience as the most intelligent people on earth, and not stupid people who sit down with a bag of popcorn and giggle and rummage around in one another's underwear in the dark of a cinema.
So accessibility is
that's
something that...
part of the human production. I'm not denying that, but I'm going for broke on making things really very, very sophisticated.
So you wish to be accessible to an
Yes,
audience.
it's a paradox which is very, very difficult to make work. As I said to you, private aside, I'm now making a film with a Hollywood producer, and they want to make money. Fuck it, Mr. Greenaway. You can have all sorts of game playing, and you could talk intellectual games, etc., etc. But me, the filmmaker, the producer, I need to make money.
Have you been asked to compromise?
All the time,
All the time.
But I was very fortunate. I had a very sensible and encouraging Dutch producer. His name was Kees Cassander, and I think we made about 20 films together. And he never interfered. So everything that I made with this man, I was allowed to do. So I always had final cut on everything. And now, of course, change of gear, and now I've got stuck with these Hollywood producers, and again, they're really interested in getting audiences.
But why did Peter Greenaway resort to a Hollywood producer? Is it hard nowadays for filmmakers to actually secure some budget for the films?
I mean, you want to be a film director, you know what the problems are with actually not being particularly in making. I mean, maybe you've made some films, but I bet your budgets are very, very small.
Yeah,
I think the first film I made costs, I don't know, £70, very, very small. But now the film we're making now is costing 13 million. And we have huge, backers, Hollywood backers behind us. And we're going to show the cutting copy, I think, in about 3 weeks' time, for the first time, to our Hollywood producers. And I'm sure they'll hate it. I'm absolutely convinced they'll hate it. And they'll use every excuse to try and get me off the film and take it back to Hollywood and remake the film.
You think so?
But I've got a contract and I've got lawyers, etc., supporting me, which says that Peter Greenaway has final cut. So I have final cut.
But they also wanted the Peter Greenaway film, right? So
They do.
why would they want him out of the picture?
Because I'm too difficult.
A Peter Greenaway enthusiast that would say that all of your films, they mostly grapple with sex and death. Is that correct?
Yes. But then what else is there to talk about? Tell me something
That's the
else that's
thing.
more
That's the
important.
thing. And this
There's
specific.
one thing we've left out of that. I think it's sex and death and money. Those are the three most important that keep civilization alive.
Plus work, plus
Well,
love, plus health.
yes, but
Based
I
on
think
what Freud
I would
has
take
said.
those as natural phenomena.
Yeah,
They're things
okay.
from nature. Whereas I think the way we organize our sex lives and the way we organize money, of course, in capitalism, is very much a human invention.
That's very right. That's very right. So this film in specific is very deeply rooted in decay, but also transformation. What inspired your fascination with these ideas, and how did it shape the film as we know it?
Well, yeah, I think, fucking and dying are the bookends of life. Fucking and dying. Let's be really vulgar about it and say it out loud.
We should be.
We're all going to die,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
One day.
Although the film I'm making now tries to pretend we're not, but it's a fantasy.
What is so compelling to you about symmetry?
Well, I think it's part of a bigger vocabulary. I am very self-conscious about imagery,
Yeah.
and I want it to speak for itself. Cinema isn't, I don't think it is, it's not Polaroid. It's not Polaroid. Click,
It's
click,
not,
click,
it's
click,
not,
click,
it's
click,
not.
click,
Yeah.
selfies.
Yeah.
It needs to be much more, I believe, organized. And this is because of my painting background.
For sure.
Painters take a long time and very careful and slow working, basically. Though some painters, of course, like the Impressionists, did make a painting every afternoon. But the classical painting, certainly Renaissance painting, is very carefully worked out. So if you take a film like, if you take a painting like The Last Supper by Leonardo, it's all based on the number 144, it's all organized and catalogued, and everybody has the gestures for it and so on and so on. I'll show you a film in a minute I made quite recently, where there's an explanation of how profound that painting is. And an awful lot of thought has gone into it. And I think an awful lot of thought ought to be gone into when you manufacture images for the cinema. Symmetry, just one thing. I mean, look at our bodies. I had 2 eyes, 2 testicles, 2 feet. I had 1 heart, but other things are doubled up. So the human body is very much about symmetrical, and it's left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I'm not ambidextrous. Could you write with your left hand
Just the
and your
left.
right? I think, the idea of symmetry is only part of a very sophisticated way to make good images.
Is that also a reason that you have a preference for static shots?
So that you give the audience the
I'm a
time.
painter. Paintings don't move.
You're right. You're right.
Well,
You want your audience to
if
have the
you've seen
time
the
to-
Drossel's contract, I
Yeah.
don't think we ever move the paint, ever move. And I
But
think,
then
I
there is-
also believe, and this is maybe slightly off screen, most people move the camera unnecessarily. So cameras, cinema's like this all the time. It doesn't have to be like that. I want to seriously contemplate the imagery, and to do that, you can often do it with a very still image, it's much more powerfully than you can with a moving image. But if you've seen films like The Cook, Thief's Wife and a Lover, we move the
It
camera
has some
a hell of a
elaborate
lot
camera
more
movements, some nice
deliberately.
tracking shots.
Yeah.
This film, Zed Two Noughts, it marked the beginning of your long-term collaboration with Sacha Virney.
Yes.
So I cannot help but ask how this first experience was, and most importantly, what drew you to his approach to cinematography?
Well, I had, of course, seen René films before I ever met Sacha Virney, but then I was flattered because he's quite an elderly man when I met him first. He must have been about 75, and he was, thinking about retirement, and he actually came out of retirement to work with me, and he was fascinated
We worked
by
together
my
until his
cinema.
demise.
And the first film we made, indeed, was this film.
It was.
Zed Two Noughts.
Yeah.
And I think he was an assistant with Jean Cocteau, so that's way back, in the
Yeah, it's way back.
1930s.
Yeah.
He was, an assistant cameraman then. But he knew so much about cinema. He had so many tricks. I mean, like, for example, whenever we saw a suitcase, he would take a piece of chalk out of his pocket and always run the chalk along the edge of every step so that it would come out. And there were hundreds and hundreds of tricks he had like that. And he used to use crazy things like Scotch light. Do you know what Scotch light is?
Not really.
It's the light that is reflected straight back into the lens. And you use a thing called Scotch tape, which I think you can still get.
Yeah.
And if you the opening of Drowning by Numbers, have you seen Drowning by Numbers?
Seen the film,
We
yeah.
put Scotch tape in the eyes of birds so that it reflects directly back into the camera.
That's very interesting.
I mean, people don't use that anymore now. It's a trick of you know, pre-digital cinema.
He once said that he used some candles to light up a temple.
Yeah. He said, yes. I think I'm trying to remember what the quote was. Oh, he said, you know, I can light any set you like. Just give me 3 candles. And one candle is really for me to look into the viewfinder. Another one is to me to read the clapperboard. And the third one is to light the set. So he's very minimal about these sorts of things. He was extraordinary. Unfortunately, now he's dead. He died about 10 years ago. But an extraordinary man, a very witty man too.
You have oftentimes been vocal about your disapproval of text-driven cinema. But what do you think is lost when a filmmaker is prioritizing dialogue over visual composition? What do you think?
I think it's rather sad because, you know, we have radio to worry about, you know, the text, and we have poetry, and we have novels, and these are different art forms. And you know, I'm doing a hell of a lot of writing now, and you know, writing is writing is writing, and cinema is cinema is cinema, and I think we ought to appreciate their difference.
You also said that all scriptwriters should be shot.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Can you please elaborate on that a bit
you
more?
know, we have a writer's cinema.
Yeah.
We need a painter's cinema.
Sure, it's a common notion, perpetual